Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Do you have a Jigmaster that you want to rebuild? Do you have one that's not working, that needs to be repaired? Do you want to see how to maintain one of these that's properly functioning? That's the subject of the video today. I'm going to try and do this quick. I have a detailed one available on my website and through the YouTube collection. If you want to go see how to do this step by step, let's go ahead and watch that one. However, this is going to be a quick disassembly, a check, a lube, and reassembly of the reel. So we start by removing the single take-apart screw. That gives you access to the spool and the non-gear side plate. And the first thing you want to do is check for lubrication of that bearing. In this case, there's a lot of old lubrication on this. We're going to just simply take that off with a Q-tip, and we're going to replace that with just a little dab of reel grease. I use a Penn reel grease for this, but a lot of manufacturers are out there in the secondary market that also provide that. And then simply replace that spool back into the spool side bearing and put that assembly aside for later. Now we're going to take the drive side apart. The drive side's got a bridge that's connected by 4 screws. It's also got the handle assembly and nuts and that rides on the pinion gear. So we're going to take that out. First, you remove the set screw. And I like to use a parts tray, bottom of a milk jug, to keep all my small parts. That way I know where they are when I go to reassemble. Next, you remove the handle nut. The handle nut can be removed with a wrench that comes with the Penn reels, or if you're like me, I have an aftermarket wrench that is a little bit more durable. And since I've been working on reels for over 20 years now, I work on a lot of Penns, so I figured a little bit more of a heavy-duty wrench that's made specifically for that works well. Okay, so remove the handle and the star drag nut. Handle comes off, star drag nut comes off. There's a ferrule in here that rides on the pinion that is for your drag tightening. And now we're down to those 4 screws I showed you before on the back of the bridge. Okay, so we're going to take these out. These screws are different. There's 2 screws in here that are threaded screws. There's 2 screws in here that are partially threaded because there's springs that ride on them, and you don't want to get caught up in the thread. So I'm simply reversing the screw, and as you'll notice, I'm wearing a latex glove. I kind of like to do that because with the amount of reels I work on, there's a lot of oils in these things. I like to keep them separately. Okay, I backed off all the screws. I've brought the main assembly out, and that gives me access to the back side of the reel. The back side of the reel looks pretty much like any other Penn reel, but if you haven't worked on a Penn reel, there's a free spool release toggle. There's a transition piece, a collar, and a bearing side spool holder. Okay, back off the free spool release, press down on the collar, remove the carrier transition piece. Now you've got the collar and the springs. The springs sit in a little indentation in each one of these. I'm going to leave them there, they're fine. Looks like this one's well oiled. Again, one of my tools that I use is a Q-tip. I'm just going to clean out the excess grease there. Chances are, if you're doing the maintenance, there may not even be grease in there. In that case, you just want to replace some of this. Again, a little dab, not too much. Don't want to over-lube it. Check to make sure that there's no grease and grime on that collar. Again, just a little bit, light coating. You don't need a lot for that. And then check your spool gear. Make sure that it's clean and that there's no teeth missing or out of alignment. Reset that. Put that on top of your springs. Press down, and then bring the transition piece back, kind of reversing the process of what you just did. Points on the transition piece go inside. And then it just snaps into place. Okay, so there we are. We just reversed the process showing you how to do that. Okay, next thing we do on the gear side is we want to make sure that your drags are lubricated. To do that, you remove the main gear. Take a look at the assembly below. This is the dog spring assembly. Make sure that it's functioning easily. It is. Usually all you do is use a little real oil on that one, not grease, because grease will clog over time. I use a Real X oil, but there's plenty of oils out there in the market. And simply a little bit of lube right on that post. And then just a quick trial, make sure that it's working the way it should. Make sure you have the back washer on the main gear. Take the drags out. Down to here. And then these drags just get greased. They're fabric drags. So it runs your main assembly, fabric drag, metal drag, fabric drag, eared drag, that's the ones with the 2 points on it, fabric drag, top metal gear, and then the collar. So that's the assembly point there. I use a drag grease for that. This is Cal's grease. There's others in the market that are available out there. And just again, it's the same theory here, just a little bit. Don't over grease these, but just make sure there's a light coating on each side of these. All right, so we're going to go ahead and replace that. That's fabric. These metal already have plenty of grease on them, so I'm not going to go crazy with that. Again, this is kind of a speed dating exercise in lubricating this up, but if you want to see more detailed tips and the like, then watch my other video. I encourage you to subscribe to my channel if you like what you're seeing here, if you like wheel repair, if you're just setting out and trying to understand a little bit more about it. I do a lot of different reels. I've been doing it for 20 years. I do Daiwas, Penn, Shimano's, Shakespeare's, Quantums, just about every manufacturer out there. So if you're looking to see one specifically or just general tips and techniques, go ahead and do that. Now you just noticed I put the eared washer in there. That eared washer sits in the indentations in that main assembly. Okay, again, we've lubed up that side. Check the final metal one. Then put the drag collar on, and that's your main assembly is redone now, all properly lubed up. The only piece left to lube then would be the pinion, in the pinion gear. Again, we're going to use oil, not grease there, and just a drop of oil inside. That's the same one that's accessible through the handle if you remove the handle nut and see the oil sign there. Okay, reassembly. We reassembled the top of this. We're going to grab the main assembly and we're just going to turn it opposite while keeping that piece pushed down. And you'll notice that there's 2 points on this reel where that assembly sits, kind of as a guide point. Once you have that in, turn it around. I mentioned that we have 2 different screws. We have a screw that's fully threaded and we have a partially threaded screw. The partially threaded screws go up top where the springs were that you saw. The fully threaded screws go on the bottom. And I like to do these in an X pattern just until I get all of the screws set. So I don't tighten them down fully. I just make sure that they're seated and that the reel is properly aligned. That one's a partially threaded screw, so that's going up on the top under the other spring. And then there's 1 screw left. And that would be the fully threaded screw, which goes on the bottom. Okay, so those are your 4 screws. Once they all get set, you can go ahead and tighten them down. Quick tip, don't use Loctite on these screws. I know it's a temptation to go ahead and do that. However, Loctite makes it difficult to take them out, and sometimes they can break off in the channel, even with the cold lock. Okay, the 4 together. Before I do anything else, I turn the main shaft to make sure it's operating properly. It is. Gears are working fine. We go back, we reverse the process, make sure that this is cleaned. It's the ferrule that the star drag adjustment nut presses down on to engage the drags. Star drag is next. That's this piece. There's 2 sides of this one. There's a shiny side and there's a side that has a part number on it. In this case it says 10-60. That part number goes to the back of the reel so that the pretty side is facing out. And just screw that on over the pinion gear. You like to hold the pinion gear in place. Sometimes if you find that you don't have enough strength, you can go ahead and use a screwdriver just to hold it. Don't press down too much, but a screwdriver, if you hold, it'll just give you enough tension so you can get your handle on. Handle's on next. nut goes on. Again, we've already lubed underneath this, but if you're looking at the at that handle nut and it says oil, that's where you would pull that off and oil that shaft, which is a good idea. These new reels, they have a kind of an alloy shaft. It's not as good as the old stainless steel shafts, so keep them oiled. Otherwise, over the course of storage or the like, they may rust up on you and seize. Okay, last part then, we put that last set screw in, and we're done. So hopefully that was quick and down and dirty kind of a view of how to do one of these. Didn't take long at all, so I would encourage you, if you have one of these reels, go ahead and do that. Don't be afraid. And again, if you want to see a detailed one that's a little slower, showing you a little bit about why we do this and we do that, look at the other one on my channel. Again, I would encourage you to subscribe to my channel and see not only Jigmasters but other reels that I repair, as well as product reviews. So again, thank you for your time and watching this video. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. I hope that you've enjoyed the episode.